plausibly live from the corner of 75 and 121 here in the great city of McKinney, Texas. Welcome back to episode 2 of Dynamics Chatter. I am Chad Carnes. I am your host, and we're just going to do a few things today. Number one, we got a few announcements to make. A couple of big things going on with the pod. Number two, I am going to throw down the gauntlet. I am going to challenge an industry expert, a giant in our community, to a contest if he's brave enough to come on this podcast and compete against me. And last but not least, the most important part, our functional power play. We started it in episode 1. We're finishing it in episode 2, where we take 365 for operations data and we take it all the way to your phone, all the way to Power BI in Office 365. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what you can do in 12 minutes. It's unbelievable that you are still listening to Dynamics Chatter. Welcome back to episode 2 of Dynamics Chatter. This is going to be a short one. I'm going to fly solo here. I just wanted to get on, make a few announcements, throw down the gauntlet. But more importantly, I really wanted to give you the functional power play, which is kind of a follow-up to episode 1. So I wanted to get that out as quickly as possible. Big announcement for us. We are now publishing through a Dynamics podcast YouTube channel. Those guys have taken pity on us, given us a home. And basically, we're going to enjoy being the ESPN2 to their ESPN, the Chloe to their Kim, the I guess would we be the Neymar to their Messi, or the Messi to their Neymar? I'm not sure. I'm not sure on my European football there, but one of the two. But we enjoy. We're really excited about the opportunity. Those guys are amazing, and the content is amazing. And what I would tell you is that the only thing better than the content and the quality of what they do is just them as people. They've inspired me over the last year. And they have given of their time. They've sent me numerous emails, and they've even met with me to make sure that I could avoid landmines. And then when we put out our content, they said, "Hey, we'll even give you a place to publish. We'd love to have you." And I mean, before they even saw a minute of what we did, those guys are amazing. And it's amazing how we can be separated by continents, we get separated by language, but we all speak the same language, which is dynamics. And when you find other people that are passionate and you help them, that's what this community is all about. And I can't thank those guys enough. I really appreciate those guys. The other thing that I would like to do, the other thing I don't appreciate, is how good they are. Okay, I put out my first blog, and what do I see? They come out with a blog with the entire common data service team from Microsoft. Okay, how do you top that? How do you get any better than that? And the last 12 minutes of that was fantastic, and just the demos they did. It's like, how do you follow that up? Okay, so I thought, okay, well, good. It can't be any worse than that. Then what do they do? The last one, and if you haven't seen it, I've watched it 3 times in the last, I think, 48 hours or so. They brought on the great one, the LeBron James of AX content. They brought on Murray Fife, okay? Murray Fife. I've had one episode out, and you bring on Murray Fife, okay? But what I do want to do today is I want to show you a clip from their episode. I mean, this is a guy that you kind of picture Murray Fife. You think, oh, yeah, he's sitting in a dark room just coming up with books left and right, blind squirrels, right? No. He's also incredibly engaging and funny. That's just not even fair. I mean, it's like fishing with dynamite. It's not right to put out that kind of quality content and then also be just hilarious, funny, and engaging. Okay, so I did have one beef with it though, and this is the gauntlet. This is the challenge I want to throw out. Okay, so let's go ahead and watch this clip, and I'm going to come back and I'm going to tell you what's wrong with this.
I bet you got a fan club out there, people who have attended your presentation. I remember sitting in on one of your presentation where you were doing like, was it 20, 40, or 60, or 100 tips on AX, and you was like, you can do this and that, but that's not the end of it. You can do this and that, and you kept going and going, and everybody was having a good time.
Yeah, I've done that for years. But the ironic thing is usually it's the 60 tips in 60 minutes on Dynamics or something like that. That was the main theme. And I generally only get to like 10 or 12. So everyone should feel cheated. But it's fun because even if you've been using the system for a long time, then there's a lot of things that you forget.
That's such a great clip. That's such a great, I highly encourage you to listen to the whole episode. But here's the thing. I'm throwing the gauntlet. I'm throwing the challenge out. Murray Fife, if you are out there, sir, and if you're listening, I challenge you to a duel of tips or tricks in Dynamics AX. I challenge you to what I like to call a tip-off. So I sent this idea over to AJ, our co-host, and he sent me an email back. And the first 2 paragraphs were him pretty much calling me an idiot. After that, he said, hey, here's a couple of questions for you. He said, what is a tip-off? Tip-off is this. We're going to go 10 rounds, Mr. Fife. 10 rounds. Each one of us gets 30 seconds. We'll alternate who goes first. You get to throw out your best tip or trick. No tip or trick can be repeated twice by either of us. We'll have the 2 judges. Maybe we can get the Dynamics podcast guys to come. You get 1 point for best tip in that round. You get 1 point for best presentation of that tip in that round. And then we will see, and we will crown, and basically with a possible total points of 40. Okay. Whoever gets the most points, we will crown the champion of the tip-off.
Tip-off champion.
So the next question he obviously asked me was, he goes, look, this guy's put out all this content. He works for Microsoft. He's an engaging guy on the podcast. He goes, what makes you think you have a chance to win? So here's the thing. I have a puncher's chance, okay? Mr. Fife comes to a place of trying to make the world better. What I call a glass is half full kind of a perspective. I come at greatness from a perspective of fear. Okay? My tips and tricks were developed in CRPs where things went down or crashed, and I had to fill time. Okay, all of a sudden we couldn't get a PO to process. So while somebody's over there figuring that out, I'm entertaining the crowd with my tips and tricks. Okay, and my tips and tricks have mnemonic devices, very well thought out, clever things like, if it's gone, click the chevron, and all day, all night, make it a favorite. I look forward to this, sir. I think I have a puncher's chance. If you're brave enough, please respond. We'd love to have you on. We'll do the functional power play. And what will happen is we'll have a great competition. Hopefully it'll be entertaining. And we'll also give everybody out there 20 awesome competitive tips and tricks. And I look forward to hearing from you and seeing if you will answer the challenge and come meet me in what we like to call a tip-off. So we've done our big announcement. We have challenged the very best. And it's still unbelievable. It's unbelievable that you are still listening to Dynamics Chatter. So last week we talked about how to get data out, and what we did was we looked at a grid. We pushed that out to we found the base table. We pushed that out to an aggregate measure. We used the aggregate measure to create an aggregate data entity. And then we pushed that out to Power BI Desktop. And then I showed you a few tricks in Power BI Desktop. So just as a quick review of what we did in episode 1, here was the grid that we looked at. And this was the vendor invoice journal grid. I mean, these were all the invoices, whether they were PO or non-PO, that we had sent out to, or that vendors had sent us, and that we had, some of those we had paid. So basically what I'm doing here now is we found the base table. We found the kind of the root of that grid, the root of that data source, and we created an aggregate measure. Okay. And with that aggregate measure, we set it to in memory instead of the staging. Okay. And then from that table we created, from that object we created the aggregate data entity. And this is where the magic happens. This is what allows us to kick out this OData feed that will then populate out into our Power BI Desktop file. We gave it some attributes. We created an aggregate dimension. So anything you might want to see there, go back to episode 1. I got some complaints about going too fast, like I always do, because I only have one speed. But you can go back, you can pause. I have a lot of people that do that. You don't have to watch us. You can just go straight to the functional power play, all right? So here you can see I got the slicers now, and this is just something that I had built in the last version just to kind of articulate the data. But if you imagine, instead of having to stay in one company, I can now go across multiple companies. I can put my own calculations in. There's a lot of magic here, okay? So what I did there is I published, okay? So I clicked the publish button up top. And this is kind of how I can distribute or share. So you kind of think of the Power BI Desktop as the place I create, and I think of this is the place I share. So what I did there is I clicked the Power BI app workspace that I wanted to publish this to, and this is key. This just kind of came out in June. The Power BI app workspace is a container for your data, your reports, and for your dashboards. Okay, think of it as a file folder. And this is what allows you to share groups of things to other people. Okay, super important. I like to create an app workspace for the different user groups that I choose to share with. So you can see there, I click my Empower AX workspace, which is where I publish this information. Okay, and you can see it there at the bottom. It's now in the Office 365 online portal here in the Power BI app. Okay, so you can see I've got my report, I've got data sets. Okay, and again, a lot of the things I want to do in the desktop, I can also do here. Okay, I also have access to the data set, so I could actually create a new report if I wanted to. Okay, I like to use the Power BI desktop sometimes just the first time to actually load the data. Okay, so here now what I did is I clicked the little pin button, and what I'm doing is I'm taking one of the objects on the report, and I am now making it a dashboard item. Okay, so you'll see now that if I go to the app workspace and I go to dashboard, you see I now have a new dashboard. Okay, so I just took that one visual off of the report and I made it a dashboard. So why is that important? It's important so I can look at it in the mobile piece. Okay, but here if I go over now that I've got my app to where I want it to be, I've refreshed my data, everything looks good. I'm going to go ahead and publish it out. So what this does is I can put a note in. The content says like, okay, this is what I want to see. I want to see the report. I want to see the dashboard when I click because it's going to create a new tile for you to look at this specific data, and then I can also set the permissions on who I want to share this with. Okay. So then I can go ahead and publish it. All right. So now switching gears here really fast, I know. We're going to go ahead and look at this is my phone. Okay, I downloaded the Power BI app off the Apple Store, and I selected it, and I'm going to go ahead and sign in using my the correct domain. Okay, to where I published. And when I sign in here now, what I can see is I can see the dashboards. I can see the dashboards that I've pinned per workspace. Okay, so now if I come in here and I click those and I come in here, I can find the dashboard and the report that I just saw. So this should look familiar. There's my dashboard, and if I double click into it now on the mobile phone, I can also look at the report. And I can do the same filters that I was showing you in the very beginning with the Power BI desktop app. Really powerful. In the Godfather, so to speak, in the Dynamics podcast with Murray Fife recently, just said he said an interesting thing. He said we need to get smarter, because as we get smarter, we're going to create less customizations. And this is one of those things. I mean, what would it have cost us 10 years ago to create a mobile app that had this kind of visualization and this kind of dashboard? Now I did it in 12 minutes. Okay, think about the right data. Think about the data you want to see, and start changing your perspective of what's possible in Dynamics 365 and Power BI. I hope you enjoyed this. You are listening to maybe still Dynamics Chatter.